Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Tonight, we're going to ease into a story that's etched in stone. A story not of pharaohs and gods, but of the calloused hands that built eternity. Trust me, being a real pyramid builder was nothing like the movies. No whips cracking in every shot, but a different, perhaps more unsettling, kind of reality. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is. Now dim the lights, turn on a fan, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You feel the coarse bite of the papyrus rope against your wrists, a constant, irritating presence as you shuffle forward. The scent of the air is wrong. It's not the familiar, rich smell of Nile mud and growing things, or the comforting wood smoke of cooking fires. Here it's a harsh blend of too many unwashed bodies, the dry, acrid tang of dust kicked up by thousands of shuffling feet, and something else, a mineral scent, sharp and unfamiliar. Your sandals, thin and worn, offer little protection from the small, sharp stones that seem to be everywhere now, a stark contrast to the soft earth of your fields. Your village, a collection of sun-baked mud brick homes nestled amongst date palms, is a rapidly shrinking shape behind you. You strain to see it for as long as you could, a knot tightening in your gut with every step that took you further away. The cries of the women and children who weren't chosen for this journey still echo faintly in your ears, a mournful counterpoint to the steady tramp of feet and the low murmur of worried voices around you. This journey is not a choice. It began with the arrival of the scribes and the soldiers, their authority absolute, their purpose initially shrouded in vague pronouncements about service to the pharaoh and the needs of the two lands now. As you crest a small rise, you see it. Or rather, you see the beginning of it. The sheer scale steals the air from your lungs. It's not just a building. It's a mountain being born from the desert floor, a colossal shape of pale stone rising impossibly against the vast, indifferent blue of the sky. Around its base, like ants, swarm thousands upon thousands of men, their figures small and insignificant next to the immense blocks they are somehow manipulating. The low hum you heard earlier resolves into a deafening symphony of labor, the clang of copper tools on stone, the rhythmic grunts of men pulling ropes, the distant, sharp crack of overseers' whips. Yes, they are there, though not the constant, cartoonish presence you might imagine, but a chilling punctuation to the relentless work. This place is a world away from the quiet, predictable rhythm of your life. Your days were dictated by the sun and the Nile, the flood, the planting, the harvest. Your worries were about the yield of your barley, the health of your few goats, the strength of your family. Your hands knew the comforting weight of a simple hoe, the rough texture of grain. Now you look at the inhumanly large stones, at the endless lines of men, and feel a profound, terrifying helplessness. You are just one body among thousands, swept into a tide of labor whose purpose you can only dimly grasp. The air here feels drier, hotter, heavier than it ever did in your village, as if the sheer effort of building this thing is sucking the very moisture from the world. You try to swallow, but your throat is parched, coated in dust. The future stretches before you like the endless, shimmering sand, uncertain and daunting. You don't know what is expected of you, only that your old life, the one you knew and understood, is gone. And as the sun beats down, making the distant, rising stone edifice shimmer like a mirage. A new kind of fear, cold and heavy, settles in your stomach. It's the fear of becoming just another anonymous figure in this monumental, terrifying landscape. The first light barely scratches the horizon, painting the eastern sky in bruised shades of purple and gray, when the sharp shouts begin, echoing through the barracks. There is no gentle waking here. You are roused from the hard ground, your muscles already protesting the unfamiliar surface and the previous day's journey. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of the desert night, but it quickly warms with the rising sun and the stirred dust. The meager ration of bread is dry and tasteless, but you eat it quickly, washing it down with water that is lukewarm and tastes faintly of the clay jar it came from. There is no time for conversation, only the urgency of preparing for the day's labor. You fall into line with hundreds of others, a silent, shuffling mass moving towards the great shape that is now catching the first golden rays of the sun. It seems even more imposing in the morning light, its lines sharp against the pale sky. At the edge of the main worksite, the overseers separate the men into smaller groups, yelling out destinations and tasks. Your group, perhaps 50 of you, is directed towards a pile of ropes and wooden sleds near the base of the structure. Your task, it becomes brutally clear, will be pulling. You are assigned to a heavy wooden sled, already loaded with a block of limestone that seems impossibly large. 4 other men are assigned to the same sled, strangers whose faces are etched with the same mixture of apprehension and weary resignation you feel. The overseer barks instructions. How to position yourselves, how to loop the thick papyrus rope over your shoulders and across your chest, how to pull in unison. The rope is rough, digging into your skin even before you begin to strain against it. It smells of dry fiber and something acrid, like old sweat and dust ground together. You position yourself, feeling the rough fibers of the rope settle against your shoulder. On the overseer's sharp command, you lean forward, digging your worn sandals into the sandy ground and pull. The sled groans, the wood scraping against the packed earth. For a moment, nothing moves. Then, with a combined surge of effort from you and the 4 other men, the sled inches forward, a few agonizing handspans. Your muscles scream in protest, a deep, burning ache spreading across your back and shoulders. Your breath comes in ragged gasps, and the dust kicked up by your own feet and the feet of countless others coats your tongue and stings your eyes. This is your life now. Pulling, just pulling. You are not shaping stone, not designing ramps, not calculating angles. Your body is a simple machine, providing the brute force needed to overcome friction and gravity. And you are just one unit of power within a vast, intricate system. Consider this for a moment. While you, the individual farmer, strain against a single block, the entire operation is a marvel of organization, a testament to the central authority of the pharaoh. The men here aren't just random captives. Many, like you, are conscripted peasants serving their required labor duty to the state during the agricultural off-season, alongside skilled quarrymen, scribes, and foremen. They are organized into divisions, perhaps named after pharaohs or gods, and further subdivided into gangs like yours. This structure allows for coordinated efforts on an unprecedented scale, managing thousands of workers, ensuring food and housing, and directing the flow of materials and labor. The massive ramps that snake up the pyramid's sides, which look like simple earth mounds from a distance, are themselves complex engineering feats, built and maintained by dedicated gangs, their surfaces sometimes lubricated with water or silt to reduce friction for the sleds. Your singular struggle with this one stone is a tiny, vital cog in a colossal machine designed to achieve something previously unimaginable. Stacking a mountain, the sun climbs higher, beating down with relentless intensity. Sweat stings your eyes and drips down your face, turning the dust on your skin into a gritty paste. The rhythm of the work asserts itself: pull, stop, adjust the rope, pull again. There are moments of shared struggle with the men on your sled, wordless exchanges of pained glances, or shared grunts of effort. There is no room for thought, only the physical reality of the labor. Your world shrinks to the rope in your hands, the scraping sound of the sled, and the aching demand of your own body. This mountain is not just being built of stone. It is being built of sweat, of strained muscles, and of the relentless, anonymous effort of men like you, pulling together under the vast, indifferent Egyptian sky. And the day, you realize with a sickening certainty, is still very, very long. Day bleeds into day, and the rhythm of pulling becomes the only constant. Your hands, once soft from tending soil, are now calloused and raw despite the rough cloth you wrap around the ropes. The dust is a perpetual companion, settling in your hair, coating your skin, and making every breath a gritty experience. The sun is a relentless enemy, beating down from a sky that is always, it seems, an unforgiving, washed-out blue. You pull, you grunt, you sweat. You stop for brief, precious moments to gulp down water from a communal jar, the water warm and tasting faintly of the clay, before the overseer's shout sends you back to the rope. The blocks you pull are mostly the same rough-cut, yellowish limestone, heavy beyond belief, but still manageable for a team of men with a sled and a lubricated path. They come from the quarries nearby, just a short distance from the pyramid site itself. You can sometimes see the men working there, tiny figures chipping away at the cliff face, their hammers making a faint, rhythmic tapping sound that carries on the wind. These are the local stones, the muscle and bone of the mountain being built. You understand, in a basic way, that these stones are the simplest, the most common, the ones that form the vast bulk of the structure. They are hauled down rough tracks, probably much like the one you traveled on your arrival, and then onto the sleds you pull, but you begin to notice other stones. Occasionally, a sled will carry a block that is different, a brighter, almost white limestone, smoother and finer than the local stuff. You hear whispers among the men, talk of the Tura stone, quarried across the river. Transporting those you hear is a much bigger undertaking. They are ferried across the broad, life-giving ribbon of the Nile on large barges, then somehow brought from the riverbank to the site. These stones, you learn, are destined for the outer casing of the pyramid, meant to gleam brilliantly in the sun, a smooth, perfect skin for the rough body you are helping to build. They require more careful handling, less brute force and more precision, even at the quarrying stage across the river, where you hear they use copper tools and wooden wedges expanded by water to split the stone cleanly. And then there are the stories, whispered in the barracks at night, stories of stones that come from impossibly far away, from a place called Aswan, deep in the south, a journey of many weeks by boat. These stones, the stories say, are not limestone at all, but a hard, dark, speckled stone granite. They are incredibly heavy, difficult to work even for the most skilled quarrymen using the hardest pounding stones, requiring immense effort just to break them free from the earth. These are the stones destined for the heart of the mountain, for the king's burial chambers, places of immense sacredness and importance. The logistics of bringing these giant blocks of granite all the way from Aswan, hundreds of miles away, up the Nile against the current, then transferring them from the boats and somehow hauling them up the rising structure. It's a feat that boggles the mind, a scale of organization and labor that seems almost divine in its complexity. While your world is currently confined to the 5 men on your sled team, the short distance from the nearby quarry face to the base of the ramp, and the simple, crushing effort of pulling, you are vaguely aware that you are part of something far, far larger. The pyramid isn't just a pile of local rocks. It's a mosaic of stone from different places, each type with its own journey, its own method of extraction and transport. The local limestone, the white Tura casing stones, the distant, hard granite, each represents a different challenge overcome, a different network of laborers and boats and logistics converging on this single, growing point in the desert. Your simple task of pulling is just the last step in a journey that began miles away, a journey involving hundreds of boats, thousands of sailors, and quarrymen working with tools and techniques you've never even seen. You are a single cell in a massive body of labor, connected to vast, unseen processes that bring the very mountains themselves to serve the will of the pharaoh. And as you pull, the rope biting into your shoulder, you look up at the impossibly large granite blocks you occasionally see being maneuvered higher up the structure, and you wonder at the sheer force of will and organization required to command the river and the land to yield up their very bones for this purpose. The work continues. It has to. The sun follows its relentless path across the sky, marking the passage of time in a way that feels both agonizingly slow and terrifyingly fast. Your muscles have moved beyond screaming and into a dull, persistent throb. You've learned to find a rhythm with the men on your sled team, a shared grunt, a synchronized lane into the ropes. There's a grim camaraderie in the shared hardship, wordless nods of understanding exchanged over straining ropes and dusty ground. The world shrinks to this small group, this single block of stone, this agonizingly slow journey up the rising ramp. You're partway up the ramp now, the ground falling away behind you, giving you a slightly more elevated view of the sprawling worksite. The air up here is a little clearer, less thick with the smells of the camp, but the heat is more intense, reflecting off the pale stone. You can see other teams, above you and below you, pulling their own loads, their figures small against the immense structure. The sounds of labor rise around you, the clatter of stones, the faraway shouts of overseers, the constant, grating scrape of sleds on the ramp. Suddenly, a sound tears through the familiar din, a sharp, loud crack, too loud to be a tool striking stone. It's followed by a guttural cry of pain, cut short, and then a sickening, grinding crunch. Your sled team falters, everyone looking instinctively towards the sound. Just a short distance away, on an adjacent section of the ramp, something has gone terribly wrong. A rope has snapped, or perhaps a block wasn't secured properly. A massive stone block, one of the larger ones destined for a higher layer, has shifted. You see a flash of movement, a figure in a simple linen kilt, and then nothing. The stone settles with a horrifying finality. Silence falls over the immediate vicinity, a heavy, shocked silence that feels louder than the noise it replaced. The men on your sled team stare, breathing hard, the ropes suddenly slack in their hands. Your own heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. You can see a few men from the other team scrambling back, their faces pale with shock. An overseer is already running towards the spot, shouting, his face a mask of anger and urgency, not grief this moment. This sudden, brutal halt in the relentless progress for one small group is a stark reminder of the cost of this endeavor. While you pull your stone with aching muscles, the reality is that working with these colossal weights, at increasing heights, on temporary structures like ramps, is inherently dangerous. Accidents happen, ropes break, ramps can shift or collapse if not maintained, stones can slip, heat can fell a man, a simple misstep can lead to a fatal fall. Archaeological finds in the workers' cemetery at Giza have shown skeletons with healed fractures, evidence that these were not just fatal accidents, but injuries that people survived and in some cases recovered from enough to potentially return to work. It suggests there was a system in place, perhaps basic medical knowledge among some workers or dedicated practitioners, to treat injuries, a pragmatic necessity to preserve the valuable labor force. But as the overseer reaches the site of the accident, gesturing sharply, other teams on the ramp around you continue their work. The scraping of sleds resumes, the rhythmic grunts of pulling men rise again. A few minutes later, a small group of men, moving with a practiced efficiency that chills you, begins the grim task of dealing with the aftermath. There is no long pause, no widespread mourning. The work, the immense overriding purpose of building this mountain, cannot stop for one man. His absence is noted, perhaps a brief record made, and the gap he leaves is quickly filled by someone else. The shock begins to recede, replaced by a cold, hollow feeling in your gut. You tighten your grip on the rope, the rough fibers a sudden, visceral connection to your own precarious existence. You look at the men on your team, their faces now grim and determined, avoiding each other's eyes. The incident hangs in the air, a silent, terrifying possibility that is always present but rarely acknowledged so starkly. You are valuable enough to perhaps receive care if you break a bone, but ultimately you are just one of tens of thousands. The mountain being built is immense, seemingly eternal, and in comparison, an individual life feels fragile, fleeting, and easily consumed by the sheer, indifferent scale of the project. The sun continues its climb, the heat intensifies, and the overseer's shout, sharp and insistent, cuts through the air, a command to resume pulling. And with heavy hearts and burning muscles you obey. The mountain waits for no one. Your journey through the shadows and sunlight of this place is far from over, and the weight you pull feels heavier than ever before. The moment of shock passes, but the memory lingers like a phantom weight added to the stone you pull. The men on your team are quieter than before, the shared grunts of effort a little more strained. You find yourself glancing towards the spot where the block fell, a morbid fascination warring with a deep-seated fear. Life, you've learned brutally, is cheap when building something this expensive, this large. You pull harder, perhaps, a silent, unconscious effort to prove your own strength, your own endurance, to the indifferent stone and the watchful overseers. The rhythmic scrape of the sled against the ramp becomes a heartbeat, a monotonous pulse that drowns out thought, leaving only the physical reality of strain and movement back in the barracks at the end of the long day. The air is thick and heavy. The smell of cooking fills the air, usually a simple stew of lentils or beans, occasionally some dried fish, served with the staple bread. You line up with your clay token, receive your portion, and find your spot on the floor. The food is filling, designed to provide the energy needed for the next day's labor, but it is monotonous, lacking the variety and freshness of the meals you ate at home, drawn directly from your fields and the river. Water is always available, thankfully, brought in from wells or canals, a constant necessity in this arid place. The weak beer is a welcome relief sometimes, offering a slight buzz that dulls the ache in your muscles and takes the sharp edge off the day's realities. You hear snippets of conversations around you. Men trade stories, rumors, complaints. Some talk of the skilled craftsmen working high up on the pyramid, the ones shaping the fine casing stones with precision, or those working in the chambers deep within the structure. Their work is different from yours, requiring skill and artistry rather than just brute force. You are the foundation, the muscle, the anonymous power source. They are the builders of the finished form, the ones who apply the gleaming skin and craft the inner secrets. You rarely see them, but their existence is a reminder that this immense project requires many different kinds of labor, a complex hierarchy of tasks and skills. The administration of this vast workforce is something you only glimpse the edges of. You see the scribes in their fenced-off areas, meticulously recording deliveries of food, tools, and materials, tallying the work gangs, perhaps even keeping track of the men themselves. You know there are storerooms filled with supplies and bakeries working constantly to feed thousands. Think about the sheer scale of this. Feeding, housing, and managing perhaps 20 or 30,000 workers, even if they work in shifts, is a monumental task of logistics and bureaucracy. It requires a sophisticated administrative system, one that can track resources, organize labor, and maintain order across a site that is larger than many towns. While your daily experience is one of dirt, sweat, and simple obedience, behind it lies a complex machine of planning and control, orchestrated by officials whose concerns are numbers, efficiency, and the successful completion of the pharaoh's grand vision, not the individual comfort or suffering of a single laborer. They need you healthy enough to pull, and they provide just enough to ensure that you see the overseers constantly, their presence a reminder of the authority that keeps this operation running. Some are harsh, quick with the stick. Others are simply focused on their task, driving the work forward with relentless efficiency. They are the immediate face of the system, translating the grand plans of the scribes and high officials into the physical reality of strained muscles and moving stones. Their job is to ensure the work gets done, day after day, regardless of the heat, the dust, or the weariness of the men. As night falls, the temperature drops, offering a slight respite. Men settle down on the hard floor, wrapped in thin blankets if they have them. The air fills with the sounds of restless sleep, coughs, and the occasional nightmare cry. You lie there, staring up at the unseen roof, listening to the collective breathing of thousands of men, all bound together by this place, this labor. Your body aches, your mind is dull with exhaustion, but in the quiet moments before sleep claims you, your thoughts drift back to your village, to the faces of your family, to the life that feels increasingly distant, almost like a dream. This place is real, brutally real, and it has consumed you, body and soul, into its relentless, dusty embrace. The world narrows. It shrinks to the size of the rope in your hands, the width of the sledge you pull, the short stretch of ramp before your feet. The vastness of the desert, the towering ambition of the pyramid, the thousands of men, they all recede, becoming a blurred, noisy backdrop to the singular, constant reality of pulling. Your mind denied the varied tasks and natural rhythms of farming, the shift from plowing to planting, weeding to harvesting, each season bringing different work, and different hopes settles into a dull, repetitive focus. Time itself seems to warp. Days aren't marked by the growth of crops or the height of the Nile flood, but by the sun's slow, brutal arc across the sky and the brief, indistinguishable periods of rest in the barracks. Each day feels endless while you are in it, an eternity of strain and sweat, yet looking back, they blur together into a featureless expanse. A wasteland of identical, effort kind of numbness begins to set in. The initial sharp aches in your muscles become a low thrumming pain that is always present but no longer demands your full attention. Your hands are raw, your shoulders perpetually sore, but you learn to exist with it, the physical discomfort becoming just another part of the landscape, like the dust and the heat. This physical numbness is mirrored by something deeper, an emotional dullness. The fear that gripped you upon arrival, the ache of missing home, the shock of the accident, they haven't vanished entirely, but their edges are blunted, softened by the relentless exhaustion. It takes too much energy to feel deeply, to dwell on loss or uncertainty. Survival, in its simplest form, consumes your focus. Get through this hour, pull this stone, reach the next rest period. You were a farmer from a specific village, known by your name, by your family, by the land you worked. Here you are just a body, a unit of labor. Your skills with a hoe, your knowledge of the seasons, your understanding of the Nile's moods, none of that matters here. You are interchangeable with any other man who can pull a rope. This stripping away of your individual identity, of the familiar markers that made you you, is a quiet, insidious loss. You answer to a number or a shouted command, not your name. You wear the same simple kilt as thousands of others. You become, in essence, a component of the great machine, your personal history and skills irrelevant to its function. This is profoundly different from the rhythms of farming, where your individual effort directly impacted your life and the life of your family, where your skills were honed over years and valued by your community, where your identity was tied to the land and its cycles. Here you are adrift from all of that, a cog in a system that sees only your physical capacity dot in this landscape of relentless demand and emotional suppression. The smallest comforts take on exaggerated importance. A gulp of cool water, a moment of shade during the midday sun, the briefest pause to stretch your aching back, the tasteless but filling evening meal, these are the oases in your day, the moments you cling to. Even the shared misery in the barracks can be a form of strange comfort, a silent acknowledgement among men who understand, without needing words, the unique hell of this place. You might share a worn blanket, trade a few meager words about home, or simply exist together in the dim light, a shared presence in the face of overwhelming impersonality. This forced proximity can breed tension, yes, but it can also forge quiet bonds, a shared understanding born from enduring the same hardship, something you never needed so desperately in the close-knit, familiar community of your village. Sleep, when it finally comes, is often troubled. Your dreams are vivid, technicolor splashes against the gray monotony of your waking life. You dream of home, the smell of the Nile, the laughter of children, the feel of soft earth between your toes, the taste of fresh dates. These dreams are both a cruel torment, highlighting the unbearable distance between your reality and your desires, and a vital escape, a temporary return to a life that feels increasingly like a distant, unreachable shore. They are a stark reminder of the identity you are losing, the connections that are fraying, the life that continues without you, and the mountain itself, the pyramid, the initial awe has long since faded. It is no longer a symbol of divine power or the pharaoh's glory. It is simply the thing that demands your labor, the reason for your aching body and your weary spirit. You look at it now not with wonder, but with a complex mixture of resentment for what it has taken from you and a grudging, almost detached indifference. It is just there, growing, yes, but its growth means only more days, more pulling, more sweat. These dreams are both a cruel torment, highlighting the unbearable distance between your reality and your desires, and a vital escape, a temporary return to a life that feels increasingly like a distant, unreachable shore. They are a stark reminder of the identity you are losing, the connections that are fraying, the life that continues without you, and the mountain itself, the pyramid, the initial awe has long since faded. It is no longer a symbol of divine power or the pharaoh's glory. It is simply the thing that demands your labor, the reason for your aching body and your weary spirit. You look at it now not with wonder, but with a complex mixture of resentment for what it has taken from you and a grudging, almost detached indifference. It is just there, growing, yes, but its growth means only more days, more pulling, more sweat. The personal meaning is gone. It is a task, a burden, a monumental weight on your back and in your soul. This is profoundly different from the farmer's relationship with his fields, a relationship of mutual dependence, of nurturing and being nurtured, of a clear and personal outcome to his labor. The pyramid offers no such connection, no personal reward, only the endless, impersonal demand of its construction. And as another day ends, leaving you physically spent and emotionally drained, you know that the dawn will bring only more of the same, the vast stone mountain waiting patiently to consume another slice of your life. And in the stillness of the camp, the low hum of thousands of men trying to rest feels less like communal comfort and more like the quiet grinding of the very machine that holds you captive. Your body has become a finely tuned instrument of endurance. You no longer think about the individual muscles protesting. They are just a single, integrated machine designed for one purpose: pulling. The rope is an extension of your hands, the sled an extension of your will. You've learned exactly how much to lane, how to shift your weight, how to pace your breath to match the slow, steady progress up the ramp. There is a grim satisfaction in this mastery of pure physical effort, a small pocket of control in a life that feels otherwise entirely controlled. You notice the subtle differences in the ramp's surface, how the sled pulls easier here, catches slightly there. You learn to anticipate the sticking points, coordinating wordlessly with the men on your team to apply extra force at just the right moment. You see them sometimes, moving through the sight with a different air. They wear cleaner kilts made of finer linen. Their movements are less strained, more deliberate. These are the scribes, the foremen, the master craftsmen. They inhabit a different layer of this world, closer to the plans, closer to the power that orchestrates everything. While you grunt and pull at the base layers or on the ramps, they are working on the intricate details, shaping the smooth casing stones, preparing the precise fits for the burial chambers, overseeing the logistics of moving the largest and most important blocks. They might carry tools that are different from the simple ropes and levers you use, tools of measurement and fine shaping. You are the undifferentiated mass of labor, the force that moves mountains. They are the minds and skilled hands that give the mountain its form and purpose. This difference in status isn't just about the work. It's about where you stand in the great pyramid of Egyptian society itself. The structure you are building mirrors, in a way, the society that built it. At the very top is the pharaoh, divine and absolute, the ultimate purpose of this colossal effort. Below him are the high officials, the priests, the nobles, the architects of the plan, the ones who command resources and men. Further down are the scribes and administrators, the eyes and hands of the central authority, who manage the logistics and keep the records. Then come the skilled craftsmen, the quarrymen, the boat captains, a people with specialized knowledge and abilities, more valuable perhaps, and afforded a greater degree of respect and slightly better conditions than the general labor force. And at the broad base of this pyramid, the widest and heaviest part, are people like you, the farmers, the laborers, the vast majority of the population, whose surplus labor and produce are directed by the state to power these immense projects. While some of the workers here might be slaves captured in military campaigns, the vast majority, perhaps over 80%, are likely conscripted peasants like yourself, serving their labor tax during the agricultural off-season when the Nile flood makes farming impossible. There are also likely some long-term, perhaps even paid, skilled workers and administrators who form a more permanent part of the pyramid workforce. Your mandatory service is part of the ancient social contract. The state provides irrigation, protection, and order, and in return, you owe a portion of your harvest and your labor. This project, the building of the pharaoh's eternal home, is the most visible and demanding expression of that obligation. So while it feels like captivity, like being stripped of your freedom, it is also, in the eyes of the system, your duty, your contribution to the stability and glory of the two lands and the divine order. You are not just building a tomb. You are fulfilling your predetermined role in the grand cosmic structure that ancient Egypt believed in, a structure that flows from the gods, through the pharaoh, and down to the lowliest, pharmacying the different levels of workers on the site, the overseers, the scribes, the skilled stone dressers working meticulously on a finished surface higher up. You get a sense of this social hierarchy made visible in stone and sweat. You are at the bottom, the fundamental force, necessary but largely invisible as individuals. They are higher up, closer to the light, closer to the purpose, their work more valued, their lives, you suspect, more comfortable. It doesn't necessarily breed active resentment. That takes too much energy. It's more a quiet acceptance of your place, a place you were born into, a place that dictates your aching muscles and your dusty breath, a place at the wide, straining base of a monumental structure that is, in a strange way, a physical embodiment of the society that created it. And as you pull, you are acutely aware of the layers above you, the different kinds of effort and status required to raise this mountain from the desert floor, a mountain built not just of stone, but of the very fabric of Egyptian society itself. The seasons have turned. You know this not by the changes in the fields, the swelling of the Nile, or the ripening of the harvest, but by the subtle shifts in the quality of the light, the varying intensity of the sun's heat, and the arrival of cooler, sometimes almost cold, nights. The pyramid, which once seemed a distant, impossible dream, is now a colossal, undeniable reality filling your vision whenever you look up. It dominates the landscape, casting an ever-lengthening shadow as the sun begins its descent. You are working higher up now, further up the great ramp, or perhaps on a section of the pyramid itself, lifting smaller stones into place for upper layers. The air here is different. It's cleaner, less thick with the camp smells, but often windy. A constant breeze whips across the elevated work platforms, carrying dust from below and sometimes, on rare, precious moments, the faint, sweet scent of the desert after a dew. Looking out from this height is breathtaking, in a terrifying sort of way. The camp looks like a miniature village below, the miles of desert stretching out to the horizon, a vast, empty expanse under the endless sky. And in the distance, just visible as a shimmering line, is the Nile, the source of all life, the river that brought the precious Tura stone and the even more precious granite from the distant south. Seeing it so far away is like a pang of homesickness made visible, a reminder of the life you left behind. The work has changed too. While the sheer brute force of pulling massive blocks dominated the early years, now there's more lifting involved, more careful placement of smaller, though still heavy, stones. You might be part of a team using levers and short ramps to maneuver blocks into their final positions, working alongside men who are more skilled, their movements precise and deliberate. The sounds are different too, less the deep groan of straining sleds, more the sharp tap-tap-tap of stone being fitted, the creak of wooden levers, the focused grunts of men positioning a block just so. There's a different kind of tension in the air, a sense of precision required now that the sheer mass is in place. As you work, you look up at the peak, the unfinished apex where the final stones will one day be placed. It seems impossibly high, a point reaching towards the heavens, towards the realm of the gods and the king who will dwell among them. And you, with your aching muscles and dust-caked skin, are a part of getting it there. Think about the sheer numbers involved in this mountain of stone you've helped to build. The scribes with their ink and papyrus would track it all. They'd know how many blocks were quarried, how many were transporting, how many were set in place each day. While estimates vary, imagine the scale for a moment. Perhaps over 2 million individual stone blocks making up this structure, and the average weight of just one of those blocks is around 2.5 tons. If you could somehow add up the weight of every single stone, every single piece of rock lifted and placed to form this mountain, it would total an almost inconceivable amount, perhaps somewhere around 5,750,000 tons of stone, meticulously stacked, layer upon painstaking layer. By the hands and backs of men like you, it's a number too large to truly grasp, like trying to count all the grains of sand in the desert. Your own contribution, the countless blocks you've helped to pull and lift, feels both immense and utterly insignificant when faced with that total weight. You are just one small, finite source of power contributing to an infinite-seeming task. The years have blurred, the days run together, and your body carries the permanent mark of this labor, the thickened skin on your hands, the slight stoop in your shoulders, the weariness that settles deep in your bones even after a night's rest. But despite the cost, despite the impersonality of the work, there is a strange, quiet realization dawning within you. You are undeniably a part of something that will last for unimaginable ages. This structure will stand long after you are gone, long after your village is dust. Your anonymous effort is literally built into the fabric of eternity. And as the sun begins to set, casting long, cool shadows across the worksite and bathing the upper reaches of the pyramid in warm, golden light, a different kind of feeling stirs within you. It's not pride, not exactly, and certainly not joy. It's something quieter, heavier, a sense of having been consumed by something immense, yet leaving a tiny, imperceptible mark on the world that will endure. The air grows cooler now, carrying a promise of the coming night. Perhaps, just perhaps, the end of this long, arduous journey is finally, impossibly in sight. Years pass, marked not by feasts or festivals you once celebrated, but by the steady upward march of the stone layers. Your body is tougher now, scarred and weathered like the very blocks you handle, but it is also permanently weary, the ache in your joints a constant companion. The sun has tanned your skin to a deep, leathery brown, and the fine dust has settled into the lines around your eyes and mouth, etching a map of hard labor onto your face. You are no longer a bewildered newcomer. You are a veteran of the ramps and the lifting platforms, one of the seasoned hands who knows the unspoken rules, the rhythms of the work, and the strange, unwritten lore of the site. In the barracks at night, or huddled around a meager fire before dawn, the talk isn't always of home or food. It drifts to other things, stranger things, born from the monotony and the danger, and the sheer, overwhelming presence of the mountain you are building. There are whispers about the stones themselves. The local limestone, they say, is simple, honest rock. It obeys the tools and the ropes. But the white Tura stone, the stuff of the outer casing, is different. It's smoother, yes, and beautiful in the sunlight, but it's also said to be fickle, prone to slipping, to resisting the laver at the last moment. Some men swear it has a kind of coldness to it, a detachment from the earth, as if it remembers being ferried across the wide, flowing Nile and resents being forced into this static, upward climb. And the granite, the dark, speckled stone from Aswan, that stone, everyone agrees, is stubborn. It's hard and heavy, yes, you feel that in your bones with every block you handle, but the stories say it has a spirit, a defiant will forged in the deep south. Some believe you have to speak to it softly before trying to move it, offer it a tiny pinch of dust or a drop of water, appease its ancient, rocky soul before it will cooperate. Refuse and it might shift unexpectedly, pinch a finger, or simply feel impossibly heavy, clinging to the ground like a stubborn beast. Then there are the stories of the men who didn't make it. You've seen them fall, seen the accidents. Their bodies are taken away, buried perhaps in the workers' cemetery nearby. But their spirits, some say they linger. They are bound to the mountain they helped to build. A sudden, inexplicable gust of wind on a still day. That's the sigh of a man who fell. A tool misplaced, a rope that phrased too quickly, the work of a restless spirit, perhaps angry or perhaps just trying to continue the work they left unfinished. You learn to step carefully in certain spots, to avoid the edges of platforms where men have fallen, not just for safety, but out of a quiet respect, or perhaps a little fear, of the unseen company you keep. Some men perform tiny personal rituals, tying a small knot in a scrap of cloth, spitting on a particularly difficult stone, murmuring a protective phrase taught by their village elders, small, quiet acts of defiance against the overwhelming forces of gravity and fate, little anchors of control in a world that offers none and the purpose of it all, the great journey of the pharaoh to the stars. It feels distant, abstract, almost like a story told about another world. You are here in the dust and the sun and the sweat pulling stone. The pharaoh is somewhere else, in his palace, or perhaps already beginning his transition to the afterlife. Your labor is for him, for his eternal glory, for his journey among the gods. But it feels strangely detached. It's not like working your own field, where your sweat feeds your family. Here your sweat builds a staircase to heaven for someone you've never met, someone whose divine existence is a world away from your aching reality. There's a strange irony to it. Your very physical being, your muscle and bone and breath, is being consumed to facilitate a purely spiritual journey. It's a transaction on a cosmic scale, your earthly life traded for a tiny, anonymous contribution to a king's divine ascension. Sometimes, in the quiet moments, you wonder if the pharaoh, soaring among the stars, ever glances down at the mountain he left behind, at the countless, unseen hands that lifted him there. Does he remember the dust, the sweat, the lives poured into his eternal home? You suspect not. Your connection to his afterlife is through the stone, a cold, hard link built of unimaginable effort. As the last rays of the sun paint the western sky in hues of orange and purple, the air cools, carrying the scent of distant fires. The work for the day is done. You join the slow procession back to the barracks, another layer added, another day survived. The mountain looms behind you, a growing presence, a silent testament to the strange intersection of human labor and divine ambition. Your feet are heavy, your body calls for rest, but your mind is a complex mix of exhaustion, dull acceptance, and the quiet hum of the strange, personal beliefs that make the impersonal task of building eternity just a little more bearable, a little more human. And as you settle down on the hard ground, listening to the familiar sounds of the camp, you know that tomorrow the mountain will still be there, waiting for your hands, for your strength, for another day's worth of anonymous, vital work. And perhaps, just perhaps, the spirits of the granite will be kind. The air is different now. It still carries the omnipresent dust, yes, but it's less the churned-up grit of the ramps and more a finer powder, the residue of finishing work. The sounds are different too. The constant, groaning chorus of thousands of sleds pulling weight has faded, replaced by the rhythmic tap-tap-tap of smaller hammers chipping away, the scrape of polishing stones, and the relatively quiet movements of men working higher up with more precision. The vast ramps that once snaked up the pyramid's sides like great veins are slowly being dismantled, their earth and rubble being cleared away, revealing the smooth, finished surface beneath. The mountain is no longer a raw, stepped structure of rough blocks. It is acquiring its skin, a gleaming sheath of the pale Tura limestone you saw arriving years ago. You are working on the ground now, helping to clear away debris, or perhaps assisting with the final touches on the lowest layers of casing stone. Your muscles still ache, a deep, bone-weary soreness that you suspect will never truly leave you. Your hands are permanently thickened, the lines on your palms ingrained with the history of rope and stone. You move slower than you once did, your joints protesting the years of relentless physical demand. Your body is a map of this place, etched with the cost of building eternity. But the demand on your body is less constant, less brutal. There are moments now where you find yourself simply standing, leaning on a shovel or a lever and looking up. And when you look up, you see it. It's no longer just a construction site, a chaotic anthill of labor. It is becoming. Finished, the lines are clean, sharp against the sky. The casing stones fit together with an uncanny precision, reflecting the sunlight with blinding intensity. High above, you can see the very peak, the point reaching towards the heavens. You've heard the whispers, seen the preparations for the final stone, the pyramidion, perhaps made of polished granite, maybe even capped with electrum or gold to catch the sun's first rays. It's a piece of pure, refined purpose, destined for the very top. The culmination of all this effort, a strange mix of feelings stirs within you. There is, undeniably, a profound sense of relief. The end of the labor is in sight. The promise of going home, a promise that sometimes felt like a cruel joke during the endless years of pulling, now feels real, tangible. The thought of your village, the smell of the Nile, the possibility of seeing familiar faces, it's a powerful pull, a yearning that has been a low ache for years and now flares into eager anticipation. But beneath the relief, there's a quiet apprehension. Who will be there when you return? Have years of hardship changed you so much that you no longer fit in? Will your farm still be there, waiting for a hand too accustomed to stone, too unfamiliar with soft earth? Life here, for all its brutality, became a known quantity. The fear of the unknown future, of stepping back into a life that has continued and changed without you, is a cold knot in your stomach. There isn't pride, not in the way a craftsman might feel pride in a beautifully carved statue. This was not your creation, it was a task imposed upon you. But perhaps there is a quiet, weary sense of survival. You endured it. You were part of this monumental, almost unbelievable thing, and you are still standing. Looking at the sheer scale of the finished work, the perfect geometry rising from the desert, you can't help but feel a kind of detached awe. It's immense, it's permanent, Your small, insignificant life was poured into it, and it stands. There's a strange, heavy connection there, like a scar that is part of you, a reminder of the years stolen, yes, but also a testament to the fact that you survived their theft. You are one of the fortunate ones. You are alive to see the work near its end, to potentially return home. Many others did not. You think of the man on the ramp, the sudden crunch of stone. You think of the empty spaces in the barracks, the men felled by heat, disease, or exhaustion. You are still here. Soon the scribes will come with their lists, their papyrus. They will check your token, record your departure. You will receive your final rations, perhaps a small payment or provisions for the journey. And then you will walk away from the mountain you helped to build. It will stand behind you, growing smaller with every step you take towards the river, towards home. It will be a permanent fixture on the horizon, a silent, colossal witness to the years you spent in its shadow, a monument built not just of stone, but of the anonymous sweat, struggle, and enduring spirit of men like you. As the final casing stones are polished, and the capstone is perhaps set in place with ceremony, you might only hear faintly from a distance. The Great Pyramid will cease to be a construction site, and become what it was always meant to be. A mountain for the pharaoh to ascend, a marker of eternity. Your part in that is over. The dust will eventually wash from your skin, but the mountain and the memory of the years spent building it will be with you always, a strange, heavy anchor to a time when your life was measured not in harvests, but in layers of stone and the relentless rhythm of the pull. The journey home awaits, as daunting and unknown in its own way, as the journey that first brought you to this place of dust, labor, and unimaginable scale. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the unseen hands that built the pyramids. It's a story that reminds us of the immense human effort behind the ancient wonders we see today, the personal lives swept up in monumental tasks. If you found this story relaxing and thought-provoking, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. And let me know in the comments what you thought or any other historical journeys you'd like to take. Until next time, dim the lights, turn on a fan, and ease into a peaceful night. Good night.